Welcome to the Office Add-ins Developer Community Call. My name is David Chesnut, and I'll be hosting the call for today. Just a few quick notes about the community call. If you don't have the meeting invite to the call, there's a link at the top of the slide here for that. And as we go along, Alex, who's here with me, will help by putting some of the links into the chat window. And as Dana mentioned, we'll be posting the slides and a blog summary afterwards, so you can get access to all the links that you see in these slides. So the call is the second Wednesday of every month, and our next call coming up will be Wednesday, October 9th. And if you're new to these calls, it's a great chance to meet the product teams behind the Office Add-ins platform and the Office.js APIs. We try to cover what's new, what's coming up soon around the platform, and try to do at least one technical deep dive in a particular content area in each call. And occasionally we have customer presentations from developers in the community showing how that they've implemented the Office platform in their own solutions. And today we actually have a customer presentation as well. And it's also a chance to do some Q&A. So if you have questions you want to ask to the product team, you can do that. Just feel free to post your questions in the chat. We'll try to answer those as we go along. Sometimes we just do them at the end of each section, or maybe at the end of the call. If there's any questions we don't get to, we'll summarize those questions and answer them in the blog post that goes out a few days later. So here's the agenda for today. Alex, my colleague here, is going to do an Office Add-ins overview for anyone that might be completely new to this. Then Phoebe Yuan from the Excel China team will talk about what's new with the Excel JavaScript APIs. Juan's going to talk about what's new with the Outlook JavaScript APIs. Then we have a guest presenter, Jake Armstrong from Vena is going to talk about finance in the cloud with Excel, with their own solution that they've been working on. And then I'll talk about a new patterns and practices sample that's about to come out that shows how you can integrate Azure Functions with your Excel custom functions. And then if we have time at the end of the call, we'll do some Q&A. So here's the presenters for today. My name's David Chesnut. I'm a dev writer on the Office platform team. And joining me today is Alex Jerabek, who's also a dev writer on the same team. Juan is a senior program manager on the Outlook APIs. And Phoebe Yuan is a program manager on the Excel APIs. And Jake Armstrong is our guest presenter today, product manager at Vena Solutions. So with that, I think, Alex, do you want to chat about the Office Add-ins overview?
Of course. So hi, everyone. I'm Alex. For everyone who is completely new to Office Add-ins, I'm going to give a quick overview of what they are. Office Add-ins are a way to extend the power of the Office platform with your modern web services and technologies. And an add-in is effectively two things. It is a web app and a manifest file. The web app is hosted wherever you'd like to host it, on AWS, Azure, what have you, and just running normal web app features. The manifest file is what points Office to your web app. So there's a location there that shows where it's being hosted, and that manifest file gets loaded on any Office platform, whether it is on Windows Desktop, iOS, Office Online, and then you can upload the manifest to the Office store, or your admin can deploy it to all of your users through a centralized deployment model if it's an internal add-in. So if we go to the next slide. Now that web app of your add-in can do all the normal things web apps can do. It can call database services, and call Azure stuff. It can use the power of Microsoft Graph. But what we usually tend to focus on in this call is the Office.js library. It's the JavaScript library that extends the functionality of Office itself. So from within your Excel instance, you can access the worksheet through the Office.js libraries. So you can create charts, you can edit tables, etc. You can edit Word documents, you can edit Outlook messages or appointments, and so on. And so you can bring in whatever functionality you need directly into Office side by side, and then allow it to run cross-platform. Right? If you're interested in getting started with this, you can head over to this link, EKMS Office Add-ins Docs, and try out our tutorials and quick starts. You can also there find a tool called Script Lab, which is an add-in that allows you to play around with the Office.js libraries directly in the Office host of your choice. So you can start learning how to extend Office as you wish. And with that, I'll turn back over to David. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Alex. So now let's talk about what's new with the Excel JavaScript APIs. And Phoebe, are you on the line?
Hey.
Hey.
Hi, everyone. Hey, I'm Phoebe. So for what's new in Excel JavaScript APIs, today I'd like to update on the small API we are working on as an example. That is the Range.moveTo API. The reason why we implement this is from time to time we receive the feedback from different customers complaining that current Excel JavaScript API doesn't support cut API functionality, and the user use copy, paste, and delete as a workaround, which actually works, but it's not very convenient. So that's why we provide this MoveTo API for developers. Users can move cell values, formatting, and formulas from current range to the destination range. So the description and scenario is quite simple and straightforward. And next, I'd like to give you a small demo. Next slide. Yep.
Did you want to present, or do you want me to?
David, you can just present for me. Switch to next slide. Yeah. Okay. We prepared a video recorded in advance on our development environment, and there are two scenarios. One is to move the source range cells to destination table on the left. The other is switch table columns by leveraging the MoveTo API. So can you help me to play the video? You can see from the video, the highlight part is the source range that I want to work from. I want to move the date to an amount, all of this all of this content to the table. So click the button. You can see all of the contents, including the data, values, and formatting are moved there successfully. The other is to reorder A and B column. So click the button. And these two columns will be switched successfully leveraging the MoveTo API. Yeah, on the right side, I listed the sample code for these two scenarios. Actually, the code is very simple, so it's much easier for developers to finish the task with less steps. Actually, MoveTo is only one example we are working on recently for Excel.js API. And our future crews are also investing resources to enable more formatting-related APIs for Excel. For example, the cell indentation API and the cell autofill APIs. And all of these APIs are still under development, and my colleagues will give more updates in the coming community calls. Another piece of good news we want to share here is for Excel JavaScript API, we will announce the version 1.10 in November soon. So currently all the work is on the track smoothly. There are about 140 new APIs for Excel will be officially released in production soon. So please stay tuned for our updates in the future. Yeah, so that's the part of Excel update.
Cool.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you, Phoebe. All right, that was very, very good to know. So moving along, Yuan, do
Yes.
you want me to keep presenting slides?
I'm sharing now my screen. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. It's Juan Balmori here. I'm going to give you a quick update on the Outlook JavaScript API investments we are doing. First of all, I'm going to give you an update on the 1.8 release, and then I'm going to focus on a demo around block consent on Windows and also the categories APIs. So basically, we didn't participate in the last month call. So the huge update here is that basically all the APIs that we are planning to release on the 1.8 requirement set are in preview right now. So right now we're in the latest stages of testing, making sure that all the APIs work as expected. We require your help for this because we need to make sure that it's working as we expect. No, so in fact, we recently discovered a few bugs, and some of these APIs are at risk right now. So the attachments feature area, everything is in preview in all the platforms that we are going to be supporting it. Basically, Windows Online and Mac. Block consent feature as well. It's currently on preview. I'm going to send you I'm going to show a demo later about this. Categories, it's in. So the plan is to release it in 1.8. Shared folders. Shared folders is the first feature that it's currently at risk to be included in 1.8. And the reason is because we have some dependencies on actually the Outlook product, in order to be able to release it. So right now we don't know if it's going to be included. We are striving, as Phoebe mentioned, that we also want to release this by November, which is kind of in line with our Ignite conference. So for that target, that API is at risk. And hence location is included. Internet headers, it's another feature that definitely is not gonna, I think it's not gonna make it for 1.8. We discovered a bad bug here that is gonna be a bit costly to solve. So that most probably is gonna be removed from the release. The plan is to release it, as soon as we can afterwards. No? Then we have a couple of Office theme functionalities that we are also including, and finally, as a single sign-on, going to be working in Outlook as well. I would like to show you a demo of this in the next community call. And now let's talk a little bit about the demo that I prepared for you folks, showing block consent as well as categories. So first, I'm going to show you how the demo works. I'm going to start with block consent. So the idea here is that the goal of this API is that we basically prevent a user from sending an email based on many conditions. Now, this is something that many of you have asked us to do, and this is something that was available online. Now you can test it today if you install, your latest build and you use our tools, your Joe Office. I'm going to show you in a second how to do it. So that I implemented a very simple demo here. So I'm going to send an email to myself. And then what I'm doing here is that I'm validating the subject of the email. So for example, if the subject is literally don't send, like this, if I try to send this email, the event is going to get called and, the email is not going to be sent. If I type whatever other subject here, then the email is going to be sent. Okay, so it's very simple but powerful feature. And what I want to show you now is what do you need to do in order to try this, at your earliest convenience, and let us know if this is working as you expect. No. So the first thing you need to do is you need to go to the manifest. So it's very common in Outlook integrations that you need to add a new extension point. As you see here, well, first of all, we're going to ship another version override. So you want to make sure that you're using the 1.1 schema. That is super important. And then basically implementing this is as easy as adding another extension point, which is the events. And in this case, the event type is item sent. It's going to be synchronous, and the function name is block send. So this is also very important because when the event happens, what we're going to do is that we're going to call the block send method that should be on the function files. If you go up to the manifest, you will see that we have somewhere around here. There you go. We have a function file that it's including all these methods. And as you can see, commands URL points to commands.html. Okay. So if you go to in your project, if you go to commands.html, you'll see that it's including commands.js. It's been built in Webpack in this case. But here is where I will put the method that it's going to be doing all this. So as you can see here, I do have a block consent method. Super important. Don't forget, folks, to add this to the global. Make sure that if you don't add this method to the global, then it's not going to work. And finally, here we have the implementation of the event. So in this case, I'm getting the subject of the email item, and where I'm getting the subject of the email. And in this case, if it's literally don't send, what I need to do is that I need to call the completed method with a allow event equals false. So again, it's very simple but powerful feature. This is currently on preview, guys. So the call to action here is please help us to make it super stable. The second part of my demo is about categories. So in the same add-in, I am adding an appointment compose extension point here. And basically what I'm doing here is that I am listing all the categories. As you can see, all these categories that are in an email. It's another highly requested feature from you guys. And as you can see, well, first of all, I'm able to query what are the categories available. And it's very simple code. And as you can see, this list is going to be matching with this. And I can actually manage the categories that I'm using. Like, for example, if I have a super urgent, in this case, category here, if I want to remove it, you just click on this button, the category is now removed from the list. Okay. The create category, it's gonna add again the super urgent category here. As you can see, if I refresh it, super urgent is back here, as well as in the category menu. And then finally, I can assign that category. Let me assign the super urgent category, or I can add whatever other categories, to an email, no? In this case. Now, the API for doing this is quite simple. If you go to task.js, probably we're gonna publish this example so you guys can try it if you want. But basically, on the master categories on Mailbox, that is the object that you can use to manage all the categories. So basically here, this is the one that I'm using to get all the categories that are currently in the, in my mailbox. And as you can see, there's an array here, and I am just adding to that combo box all the categories that are available. The removal of categories also, it's done in the categories, in the master categories object. Using the remove async method, we can send an array of all, the categories that I want to remove. So basically, you can send one or more. In this case, I'm just sending the one that is currently selected on the combo box. Creating a new category, more similar to this. Here, I'm creating an array that it's showing the display name of the category as well as its color. And as you can see, then in the add async method, I'm sending that array to create these categories. And then you can use them from the items. So in order to assign a category to an item, you basically go ahead and access the item categories collection, and then you can add, in this case, the one that is selected in the combo box just by the text. So it's quite simple. Please give it a try. During these community calls, I'm going to be talking about these types of scenarios that you can implement using these new APIs. The call to action here, guys, is please go to our page. Everything is in the preview requirement set. In fact, what I was doing while I was preparing these demos is to follow, all these APIs and samples that we have here. So please go and play with these new APIs, and we're hoping to release it soon.
All right, thank you, Juan. I see there's a comment from Dan Bagley, the master categories list changes don't carry into archive.
Yeah, we can follow up offline or in the chat. Juan will be sticking around in chat, so if you have any questions, please add him. Or if there are any bugs or issues or other expectations you have of the preview APIs, log those issues in GitHub, either on the documentation pages we've been linking or on the Office.js repo itself.
Mm-hmm. And yes, there's a question here about if I'm using the JSON generator. Yes, the answer to that question is yes. I use the Joe Office. We can send the links on how you can install it. Basically, that scaffolds a project for not only Outlook, but also for Excel, Word, and PowerPoint. And you can start from that project and then start adding your extension points in the manifest and basically implement something as similar as I have right here. So I will make sure after the call to have some instructions about how you can, add these functionalities into an existing Joe Office template.
Cool.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you, Juan. So next up, we have Jake Armstrong from Vena Corp is going to talk about their solution that they put together.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, David, and I really appreciate everyone on your team allowing me to participate in this call. It's been really wonderful learning from these community calls so far, and I'm happy to give back a little bit. So quick introduction. My name is Jake, and I'm a product manager here at Vena. We're a very Excel-centric shop, so this is a really exciting place to be and discuss what we're doing. And so I'll start by talking a bit about our approach to Excel and Addins in general, and then I've got a pretty specific technical deep dive for all of you, and I'd love to answer any questions as well. I think we've got a pretty slick experience for getting into an Office add-in, so I'd love to show that to you all. So again, so to start, we'll talk a bit about the Vena approach, how we approach add-ins and Excel in general, and how we've made that work for many users. Next, why Office 365? We've done a bunch of development in Office 365 already, and we're going to continue that pretty devoutly. Next, a product demo. So live, I'm going to walk you through the experience that I spoke about earlier. And then right after that, I'm going to describe in a lot of detail the tech behind that experience. So and then some Q&A at the end. So first, I'll just jump into the Vena approach. So first, Vena is built on the principle that finance users love Excel. It's been finance users' bread and butter for a long time. And we're not trying to replace Excel. We're really trying to build off of Excel's success. So Vena is a platform that enables finance departments to use Excel on a large scale, and we call this financial process management right now. So let's take a look at the basic problem we're trying to solve. So first, imagine you're running a lemonade stand. It's important to track your sales over time, maybe track your costs in lemons and sugar, what have you. No problem. Happy to manage that on a single Excel workbook, maybe even a single sheet. Nice and easy. But next, you grow up a little bit. You're managing a hardware store. You've got a lot more inventory. You've got some employees, some granular data. You typically need a handful of Excel spreadsheets. And if you want to automate your job, you really have to connect those up pretty tightly. Still works pretty smoothly, but starts to become a little bit more difficult. Next, you've managed your hardware store so well with Excel. Now you have hundreds to thousands of locations across the American Northeast in this case. But now Excel is a little bit overmatched in that you've got too much data, you've got too many spreadsheets, too many perspectives, too many users. We somewhat comically refer to this state as Excel hell. A lot of companies get to this size where Excel alone is not quite enough to be able to manage your entire set of financial processes. So this is where Vena comes in. So again, we start with Excel. Very simply, Excel is the basis of everything we do. We have a Vena add-in as well that I'll go over what a few of those add-ins look like in a later slide. And then we keep all of your files and data on our servers, on our cloud servers themselves. So this is a really important distinction that not only do we keep your files and data on our server, we keep them separate. So you can use each file from multiple different perspectives, and your data is ready on demand. So in this way, users can really just use Excel for what it's good at, which is calculation design and user experience. It's really not what you want to be using for storing tens of millions of data points. That's just not what it's for. So for those customers, they found this approach pretty valuable. So we call the Vena approach the full financial process management spectrum, one database for multiple processes all in the cloud. So how does this look? Financial processes kind of take on three forms, those for the present, those for the past, and those for the future. I'm not going to read through all of these, but these are all really common things for finance departments to do for any size business, especially mid-size and enterprise businesses. And Vena lets all of that data live in one central place, so that all of these processes can take place on one platform. Whereas lots of our competitors are really good at one or two of these, but they really can't combine those very well with other processes. So without further. Oh, and worth noting, we do currently have over 600 customers and over 40,000 users that are able to take advantage of these processes. So next, why are we all here? Why Office 365? So we started. We as a shop predate Office 365 by quite a bit, but why have we been drawn to Office 365? So first, we're really drawn by having the same experience on Mac, Windows, and browsers. If you told me 10 years ago that we'd have finance users who wanted to use Macs, I would tell you were crazy, but that's absolutely no longer the case. We have lots of users who enjoy using Macs, and also it's important to many users to be able to use Excel and Office on browsers. Next, no installation or updates required. So this was a kind of a high bar to entry for a lot of our clients to have to manually download and install an MSI installer or ClickOnce installer, just pretty painful, and the updates really got in the way of some people's experience. And then a more flexible user experience and better supported technology. So we've found that being able to build our applications as a web app is just a huge advantage over older technologies, and will allow us to rapidly deploy our add-ins much more quickly. So a little bit of history, a little bit of Vena history for you. Vena started a few years, I believe in 2012, but the current add-in that all of our users essentially use right now is our desktop add-in. So that was built in Microsoft.NET technology, written in C#, Excel add-in. Then in 2017, we started to innovate. We built an add-in called the Contributor Connector. This was really valuable because it allowed our Mac and Office Online users, well, predates Office Online, but allowed our Mac users to start using Vena. Although this only had a very limited feature set compared to our full desktop add-in. Next, we had the opportunity to release ad hoc analysis. So this is a tool that was kind of a stripped down version of the add-in that allowed people to access their data much more quickly. And then currently, we're putting a whole ton of resources into our upcoming Office 365 add-in. That's still a working title. It'll probably be something snazzier by the time it comes out, but this is something we're intending to release in 2020. And notably, this is a port of all the technologies from our desktop add-in, but with a much better user experience. So we're really, really excited to be able to deliver that to our customers in 2020. And notably, this will replace the desktop add-in in time. It's a good tech upgrade, but that will be probably a slow transition. So next, excitingly, we have the demo. Oh, and the item I'll get to demo for you is ad hoc analysis. Unfortunately, I can't yet demo the Office 365 add-in because it's not in a state for this call. But maybe if the community call has me back in the future, we can show you the full shebang. But for now, I'm going to be demoing ad hoc analysis and especially the login and authentication flow. So without further ado, I'm going to just jump into Chrome. I'm just going to quickly go back a moment. So we started in the Vena platform. So what our first step here is we will quickly link our account with Microsoft. So I'm already signed into a Microsoft account here, so I'm just going to select it. But otherwise, you'd have to type in your username and password. This gives Vena access to your OneDrive. Next, we go back to our manager pane, and we'll click Create Ad Hoc Report. So that right there, in case you missed it, that's where the magic happened. You didn't see much? We'll talk about it in our slides coming up. So a lot of authentication, a handful of different technical things happened nice and quickly. Again, we'll talk about it later, but that's an important moment. So now we'll click Open. You'll see us jump directly into Office Online, and you'll see Vena's connector add-in loading on the right. I'll give you a quick demo as well of this ad hoc functionality. So what this will just bring back your data really quickly directly from the cube. So I'll drag our periods into columns and our locations into rows and refresh. This is just a really quick way for our Vena users to take a look into their data and dig into it. This isn't the focus of the call, but I can definitely jump a little bit deeper into this at another time if anyone's interested. So this is data being pulled directly from our servers, and note as well. Lastly, the user is logged into Vena automatically, taking that one-time auth token that we embedded in the Excel file and using it for its only use to log into Vena. So this again really important for dodging the step of finding the add-in in the Office store, opening that add-in in a task pane, and logging into that add-in, which is a more traditional path. But we like that this is a little bit more direct in some cases. That's actually the end of my presentation, but I'm hoping there are some questions. We're really excited about this auth flow, and it definitely took some iteration, but I'm hoping others on this call can maybe take advantage of our experience here, and would love to answer any questions you may have.
And we'll have a chat window if you want to stick around, Jake, and communicate with people directly.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, if people don't want to voice their things, just type your questions in and we'll summarize them up and send them out with the community call report.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just pass along. I like that you have the doc links at the top of each slide. It's really handy for anyone trying to follow this.
And a shout out to you, David, because those docs really did help us get through these processes and make it better for our customers.
Oh, thanks. Let's see. Well, I'm going to set up, while we're waiting for a few questions, I'm just going to set up my slide for my presentation.
And just as a reminder, the slides and the recording of this video will be posted shortly after this call ends. So if you need to review the details, that'll be online. We'll have all the links at the end of this presentation to go find that information. You can follow us on Twitter at OfficeDev.
Any questions? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move along. So I was going to talk about, we have a new patterns and practices sample coming out that shows how to integrate Azure Functions with your Excel custom functions. And this is just a demo that I'm going to do. If you haven't seen Excel custom functions, basically, anytime a function in Excel is like you go and you type equals, and like sum is a function, for example. So if you want, you can create custom functions of your own that extend these. And what I'm going to show is how you can extend those even farther by integrating with Azure Functions, which is a function that runs in the cloud. Azure Functions are pretty cool because they're more of a per instance kind of thing. Like you're not paying to run a web server, like you're really just paying for that function to be out there. And one of the things you can do with this, and what I'm going to show in this example is how to take, let's see, this project here. If you run Yo Office and build a new custom function project, it comes with these built-in functions like the clock function and the increment by. And there's also this one that just adds two numbers, like it takes a first and a second. Normally we just return the sum of that. And so I'm showing like how you can move that into the cloud. And so why would you do that? Well, one reason is you might not want your code getting downloaded into the browser where somebody could potentially decompile it. So this is kind of one way you can kind of just keep your code up in the cloud in secret. You could also write it in a different language if you wanted to, because Azure Functions support more than just JavaScript. In this case, I'll show how this is written in C#. You might want to do integrations with other parts of Azure, like you can integrate Azure Functions with message queues, you can access storage and all sorts of stuff that is going to give, basically, in a sense, you can extend that functionality into your custom functions by taking advantage of that. So in terms of how this actually works, first of all, let me show you where the sample is at. So out on GitHub, we have this repo, an Office dev called PNP Office Addins. And right now there's a branch for Azure Function. This sample is still in review. It should go to the master branch the next day or two, but feel free to go check this out if you want. And then this shows how to integrate an Azure Function with your custom function. There's two projects in it. So there's one for the Azure function, and then there's also a project for the custom function in Excel. So they're both VS Code projects. And if you follow the steps in this README, it'll guide you through building and launching these and trying it out. So basically, let me show you the Azure function first. So that's this project here. And in it, we have this function that it's just named add to. And when it runs, it basically needs to get the parameters that were passed to it. So it's going to add two numbers, which means there's going to be two parameters. There's going to be a first and a second that we'll want to add together. This checks for both query parameters and a JSON body being passed in. So it runs through some logic here just to see which request was made. Was it a get or a post? And then it processes the parameters out of there. Then eventually it will try to add those together. It's using a try parse approach because we don't know for sure that somebody actually passed a number. They might have passed a string, so we kind of check for that. And then if it's okay, we return some JSON that has the answer. So to run this, I'm going to start it with this command here, this func host start. The reason I'm doing this is I want to enable CORS support on it. And this is important if you're going to work with Office add-ins because they will use CORS when they call into your Azure Functions. So you have to have that enabled. And then I'm adding the URL that I want to support, which is where the Office add-in will be running. It's going to run on port 3000. And so I'll paste that in. And we'll start this up. And then, oh, by the way, to make all this work in Visual Studio Code, there's some extensions you'll need to add. And those are listed in that README in the prerequisites. So that enables this kind of project to work. And it also gives you this Azure extension, Azure Functions integration, where you can actually go online and look at them. You can connect to your Azure instance. So it's kind of like a mini view into that particular portal. Okay, so when everything compiles and it's ready to go, it gives you the little the URL of where that function is at. And so if I just control click, on that. You can see it's running on localhost port 7071, and it's going to add 2. Now, right now, it's going to be a response saying, please pass through number parameters, because I didn't put any parameters on this. So just to see, we're just going to test that it's working correctly. So I'll go ahead and add the first parameter. Say it's 5, and the second parameter is 6. Return, and then return some JSON saying the answer is 11. So that's pretty simple. That's how an Azure function works. Now, this is running locally, which is kind of nice. You can actually debug Azure functions locally without having to publish them up into the cloud. And now that it's running, I can go run my Office add-in, which is this project here. Now, what I've done is I've modified this add function so that it's going to have the URL on port 7071 that I'm going to call. And then it's going to do a fetch operation to that. And in this case, it's going to do a post. So I'm actually going to send the parameters in a JSON body. So I would take my first, my second parameters, I stringify those from a JSON object into the body, and then send that. Then when it comes back, I look into the JSON for that answer and pull that out and basically return that back to Excel. So that's how this is going to work. So let's go ahead and run this. So you may make sure we've got it built. And once it's built, I'll go ahead and start it. I'm going to run it. I'm going to use the web to actually interact with this. Okay, so my note server comes up. That's kind of interesting because I'm running 2 localhost servers now, one for my Azure function, one for my Office add-in. And I'm going to go over to my spreadsheet, and we'll just sideload that add-in. So I'm going to go to my Office add-ins, manage my add-ins, upload my add-in. I'm going to browse, and it remembers the directory location from the last time I did this. So I just got to go get the manifest for that add-in, open it up. Okay, so my add-in's loaded. Now what I can do is, it's called the Azure demo with an add, and I'll put in some parameters, 1 and 5. And it should go off and call that and come back with the answer, which is 6. So we see that that's working. So now one more thing to show is, let's see, let's close that for a second.